All right, Virginia, why is it no longer a swing state? You guys, part of my little mighty base, love these types of videos. States that are no longer swing states, I love doing them for you. Actually, doing this as a suggestion from a comment. So I love those. Keep them coming. Makes this channel community a lot better. Let's dive into it, though. Here we go. Virginia safely went to Kamala Harris, wasn't described as a swing state. All of us know the 7 swing states this election. Virginia was not one of them. It was not really discussed. If you went to a 270 interactive map, you were not going to see Virginia gray. You were going to see it light blue to dark blue. Was a little closer, maybe the Democrats would have liked. Flashback to watching the 2024 election. I do remember with 50, 60, even 70% of the vote in, Virginia was looking very close, and we were coming off of 2021 governor's race where Glenn Youngkin, the Republican, surprisingly won that state. It ended up going to Kamala pretty comfortably, a little close for comfort, I would say. If you go back to 2020, it was a little bit more of a decisive victory for Joe Biden, of course. So maybe the state is trending a little bit to the right. The governor's race in 2025 is going to be a big is a big deal, and it's going to be a big indicating factor of maybe where Virginia stands for 2026 midterms and 2028 general election. I actually did a video on that governor's race, which I will put in the description below if you want to check that out. Let's get a little bit of context, though, about Virginia, the path it's been on, and the changes in Virginia, right? So let's go to our little graph here. Here is Virginia in all the presidential elections since 1988. And as you can see, talk about being a swing state, it is very split. Of these 10, 5 straight Republican, 5 straight Democrat. We have some smaller margins in there. We have some medium size, and we have some that are quite high and quite decisive, right? So Virginia wasn't really a swing state. I want to show this margin here because Virginia was safely red, safely Republican, however you want to call it, for a very long time, a number of years. I believe since 1964, it had went Republican, and as you can see here, it went for these 5 straight then too. So in 1988, George H.W. Bush, of course, wins that election by a landslide over Michael Dukakis, carrying Virginia in a big number. 1992, fast forward here. So let's look at 88. In 1988, we have Bush winning by 20 points. And in the 1992, we have a little bit of a transition where Bush, Clinton, and Perot all gave their best at this state, and we have a narrow victory for H.W. Bush. Actually did a video on this as well, Ross Perot's influence in the 1992 election. I will link that in the description for you to check out if you are interested. But this state could be deemed a swing state for 1992. It was very close. I know we have 3 party candidates maybe making that the reason, but again, a close state nonetheless. And it was starting to trend into being a swing state, although it was still staying to the right. This is a kind of safe margin, but still enough to be interesting. And as you can see here, when there was no third-party candidate here on the ballot, because of course Perot was here again, Bob Dole won the state by 1.95 over a popular incumbent in Bill Clinton. In 2000, Virginia was kind of Bush. 8% is not really something I would call a swing state. I'd say that it kind of left its swing state status here and became something that was safe. Maybe think of today something like a Minnesota, which is like mildly interesting, but it's still going to go to Democrats by 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. You don't really think about it. Like if it went red, it'd be a catastrophe for Democrats. That's kind of where Virginia was in the Bush years, right? Like if it went to the left, you knew Bush was definitely going to lose. But then there was a transition. Okay, so when you were looking at elections in 1988 or 2000 or 2004, and I did the research on this, you weren't really seeing Virginia talked about as being a swing state, just like how you see those gray states and stuff on a map. But as you fast forward to 2008, this is an article from 2008, so you can see here, October 23rd. You look down, and 8 states that could go either way: Ohio, Florida, Virginia for the first time, Colorado, Nevada, Missouri, Indiana, and North Carolina. I think Indiana would be a very interesting video on maybe it being a swing state, how it was a swing state for an election there. That might be something I do in the future. But as you can see, Virginia was starting to become a swing state. And it swung. I mean, it swung by 14 points to the left, that's quite significant. And then right here, another breakdown. So why recent history may not hold in 2008. Republicans over the past 20 to 40 years, several states that have been reliably Republican over the past 20 to 40 years are considered swing or battleground states this year in 2008. Again, an article from 2008. This list includes Colorado, North Carolina, and Virginia. The three post-2000 demographic trends emerge when examining these new swing states. So let's read this right here. Each state has a higher voting age population growth rate than the national average. The Hispanic rate of growth in voting population has been especially high, and much of the growth has occurred among minority groups and in suburban, exurban, and urban areas. And we know that urban areas and minority, high number of minority percentage in an area will tend to lean to the left or tend to lean Democrat. So someone was onto this in 2008 that this state was starting to swing back towards the left and become kind of that swing state status. So in 08, it goes by a kind of comfortable margin, 6.3, but still down and much more of a talking point. In 2012, I think that this was probably the peak of it being really a full-on swing state. Obviously, these are very close. But this is a typical two-party, two candidates race in 2012. And it was extremely close between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. So very interesting there. Then, as you can see, Trump comes around in 2016. It kind of keeps its swing state status. It's in the mix there. It wasn't as big of a swing state as, say, like a Pennsylvania or Arizona back in 2016, if you remember, but it kept its swing state status. 2020, foregone conclusion. And since then, Virginia has kind of never looked back, and it's the reason we're making this video. Of course, 5.78%, we're moving back in there. So this is kind of an interesting video. We might be seeing a state that's no longer a swing state, but if 2026 and 2028 go the Republicans' way and this trend keeps moving right, maybe it will go back to being a very traditional swing state. And when you're filling out your interactive map, you will see Virginia actually be gray as opposed to the light blue, lean blue, whatever nomenclature you want to use for that distinction. Let's break down something I saw super early in the data in the counties here. So if I go back to 1988, when this state was safely Republican, and I look at by counties, okay, we like to look at the top 5 biggest or most populous counties in a state to kind of make determinations on like where the vote has went. Because of course you could look at a county like Falls Church and maybe it's blue in 1988 and then it goes red in 2024 and you go, oh, that's the big change, but only 5,000 votes cast. Let's look at the biggest county in Virginia, Fairfax County, 328,000 votes cast back in 1988. 200,000 Republican votes for 61% of the vote to 38% Democrat. So very safely red-leaning state back in 1988 in a very safely red-leaning county in Fairfax County driving that. I'm sure as many of you can guess, if we go to 2024, Kamala and Trump, where she won, we can look at the counties here. Let's look at Fairfax County. Huge swing. Oh, Fairfax City, sorry. Fairfax, huge swing, 65% Democrat, more votes cast, over 200,000 more votes cast in 2024, 386,000 total. So you look at 1988, again, for context, we've got 125,000 Democratic votes with a total of 328. And in 2024, you have got 386,000 Democrat votes. More total Democrat votes than total votes in 1988. The state has totally swung around and just been like turned upside down when it comes to the most populous counties. Huge swing. Now, Virginia did have quite a bit to go. 20% victory in 1988. So these numbers aren't huge. Aren't hugely surprising is what I'm saying. So Henrico County, another big county in Virginia, 63% blue in 2024. Back in 1988, Henrico County was 69% red. So these types of numbers are painting the picture about the swing that's happened and the reason we've went from Republican plus 20 to Democrat plus 10 or Democrat plus 5. But that doesn't explain all the changes that happened in here, the changes that happened here to make this state not necessarily the swing state that it once was. If you're looking at Virginia as a whole and maybe why it's went from just right to left, I think this is important right here when you look into the demographics for Virginia. So the state's most populous racial group, non-Hispanic whites, has declined as a proportion of the population from 76% in 1990 to just 58.6% in 2020. And as we know, by looking at national exit polls, let's just look here in 2024, 57% of whites, just on average across the nation, vote on the right or vote right-leaning. That number, that support in Virginia, if you might say, going from 76% to 58% is huge. And a big reason, I think, why you see 1988 to 2020 have a 30-point swing. The white vote is just not there as much. And it also goes back, I believe it's this article, where the Hispanic rate of growth in voting population has been especially high. Hispanics have trended to the right in 2024, but we know that minorities, and especially Hispanics, are more left-leaning overall or on average. And so you can just kind of see the explanation there quickly that Virginia going right to left might be the declining white population and the increasing Hispanic population, or just minorities in general. So super interesting there. So if we look at 2000, some of these counties, as you can see, Fairfax County still remaining right-leaning, 48% to 47%. This is a very, very healthy small margin there. Something super interesting we'd love to look at. And you even have Ralph Nader getting 2.95% of the vote there. I did a video on Ralph Nader and his influence in the 2000 election that I can link below if you're interested. But this is kind of the big reason, I think, here is you're seeing some of these counties, Fairfax, Henrico, still remaining right-leaning. Smaller margins than 1988, sure. But this is when the state starts to change. So 2000, as we look here, 2000 and 2004, not really a need to go look at in both these elections, but let's go check out 2008. So let's go back up. Whoops, let's go back up to the top here. Let's go past 2004, and let's go look at 2008 and the results by county. So if we go down to Fairfax, Virginia, not a surprise, 60% of the vote is left-leaning or blue. Look at Henrico County, another blue big county, 55.7%. So there is a big swing right there. It was about 47% in 2000 blue, then it goes up to 60% in Fairfax. And we're kind of in that swing state territory again if we refer back, 6.3%, probably a little bit high. Let's go look at 2012. Let's find what the right percentages in this state, what the right breakdowns are, what you should look for in Virginia specifically. So Fairfax County dips down a little bit, 59.57% blue. Let's look at Henrico, 55. Stays about the same. Let's go look at another big county, Loudoun County, 51.53. Let's keep looking here. Prince William County, 57.34%. So you're seeing the big counties, while they still are going blue, by smaller margins, not quite at maybe like 60% or so. This is what really, I think, drives Virginia being a swing state, when these blue counties are still a little bit, not necessarily middle of the road, but just a little bit above average, left-leaning. If we can go down and see some counties that flip from Democrat to Republican, it's not a ton, too. King and Queen and Montgomery. Let's see if they're any notable size. Montgomery, very small, 8,250, or no, 41,000. Okay, that's interesting. That's a decent little state. The other one was King and Queen, I believe. So 3,655. Not a ton to write about there, but I think the story is these other big counties. Let's go see what Loudoun County was, maybe in like 2000 or 2004. It was 51% blue. Let's scroll through. Let's cycle through. One more. Remember, 51% blue in 2012. And 56% red. Okay, so 11-point difference there. That's, again, that's on the theme. The bigger counties, Loudoun, Prince William, Fairfax, Henrico, in Virginia have went from right to left. But when we're seeing 60+%, that's when it's no longer a swing state. When we're seeing it in the 50%, that is what qualifies Virginia as a swing state. So let's look at 2024. I just want to make sure all these counties. Loudoun County, 56%. Okay, a little bit higher. Again, it was only 51%. And you might be saying 5%, not a huge deal, but it's a massive amount of votes. 129,000 blue votes in 2024 in Loudoun County. And just for context, in 2012, just 82,000. So it really does matter. It really affects the state, these big counties, and how they vote, and just little shifts in percentages. Now, I think that those shifts in percentage are probably due to the demographics changing in Virginia. And maybe with the Hispanic vote recently trending to the right, as you can see, 46% here, still at a deficit. But if you go back to 2004 and you look at Latino's not even available there. But let's look at 2004. White vote, 72% of the vote, 68% for the right. The African American or black vote, 12% for the right. And then you see 2008. The white vote goes down to 60%, so an 8% loss, and the black vote goes up about 5%. And Hispanic/Latino, a small group, it looks like it got a lot bigger because in 2004 it wasn't even on the scale. 65% blue, and the national average right now is 51%. So that could be something that makes Virginia more of a swing state moving forward, is maybe the Hispanic vote in our country moving to the right. And if it continues to move to the right, Virginia might be back in that swing state conversation. It is interesting to see how the state has changed. If we look at 2020, which really made this state go from its swing state status here, kind of close, to 10% margins for Democrats, where you can just kind of no longer call it that. Look at the white vote, down to 53%. For this state to be competitive, for it to be in that 4, 5, 6%-ish, you're going to have to see it be at least 60, 63, 64% of the white vote going red. In 2020, only getting 53% for Trump. That's not going to do you any good. Black vote, it looks like it's always about 87% or higher. The Latino vote, see how the Latino vote keeps growing and the white vote keeps shrinking? Back in 2004, the white vote was 72% and Latino vote was 3%. In 2020, the Latino vote has doubled to 7% and the white vote has went down, 5 points? Yeah, 5 points. These are the kinds of changes that are happening to make Virginia kind of out of reach for Republicans and take it out of that swing state status, right? So very interesting, 53% to 45%. Those are just not the kind of margins that Republicans need. This is even really bad. Republicans losing the mail vote. See you later, sayonara. There's no chance of it being a swing state anymore. Again, for national averages in 2024, men at a 55% clip are voting Republican. You can't be 7% the national average and expect to be in swing state consideration anymore. So very fascinating with Virginia. I think our top key points is that the big counties need to be in a lower threshold, not at 60-some%. They need to be in the mid-50s or low 50s for this state to be competitive. We need another thing we've seen is that the white vote has went down considerably in the size, and it's moved from right to left leaning quite a bit. And that is what's making this state kind of out of reach. We will evaluate and see what happens in 2026 and 2028 with this state. Maybe the white population will increase, or maybe the Hispanic population will move to the right. But for now, I think confidently we can say Virginia will be blue for a little bit of time, at least. If you like this video, if you're interested in these videos at all, I do a lot of them. I'll link my other videos in the description on why states aren't swing states anymore. Please subscribe if you find it interesting. Comment something positive, negative, anything. Love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. And thank you for watching.